I've been thinking, but I always think about motivation and determination and getting stuff done during the day. I think about it all the time. Because I think in my mind, I have very much a sense of I never feel like I'm doing enough. I always feel like, there's always more expectations that I should be able to do more and more. And it's almost for me, it's a relative um, it's a relative process. Like whenever I do a lot in a day, I'm always like, what can I do that little bit better? And my bar just gets readjusted to a different point that is almost somewhat out of reach. Very rarely is there a time that I feel completely satisfied and I'm able to take a day off without feeling guilty, without feeling like I'm wasting time. And I think about all the people that are, that are able to just have fun for no particular reason. And I think about them, and it's like, it is such a good, in many ways, it's such a good quality to have, to be able to be by yourself or with people and just be able to just have fun. Just be able to, experience existence. Just be present. And my mind just right now can't and has rarely ever been able to say in the present. It's always been, what should I be doing to better myself for tomorrow, for the next day? And sometimes that brings me great joy, but other times it brings, a lot of pain. When you think you're not good enough, man, you don't have a lot of great self-esteem. And I know that comes from my parents because they just worked me so hard as a kid to do the very best that I could be, the very best that I achieve. And they wanted me to have as many opportunities as possible to really just allow for freedom in life and such. And I've been thinking about that because there's no one right way to parent when it comes to how hard you should put your kids. But it's like it's really weird. I have a lot of anxiety when it comes to achieving, and it comes from them because my parents, they are very self-conscious about how well they do. For my mom, it's like around the house getting stuff clean it has to be almost perfect, or the workouts have to be perfect and to feel happy. And on my dad, he's just keeps working at his job because that's where he feels most safe and where he feels most successful. But in doing so, he works 70, 80-hour weeks and doesn't have much time to do anything else, to take care of himself. Or he took care of us when we were kids, but it's very much like his time was finite. His time, there was a lot more, you had to, and sometimes in his words, we couldn't waste his time. And when I think about that, it's like you couldn't waste someone's time. It's like that really leaves that that, what's the right word? It really leaves me like everything is time sensitive. That I need to work out and get stuff done during the day because if I don't get what I want to do early in the day, then I won't be able to get the stuff done later in the day. I feel good about that. It's just that time sensitive. It's just, some days, like, it takes me a few hours. I think everyone, some days you just don't feel like getting up. You don't feel like doing what you love, or, doing the top thing, or whatever it is, starting the day. And sometimes it's like, it's taken me so long to start the day that, what's the point in starting it? But then a few hours rolls around and it's like, when you start your day, things like that, and then I actually do. But it's very negative, in a sense, that it caused me a lot of stress, that it's like things have to really be going perfectly for me to enjoy what I'm doing. And I'm such a high output individual when it comes to the clubs, aerobics, whatever I do. Like, I get shit done. But it's just like that motivation is like really hard to come by. And sometimes I just feel like I'm on autopilot because I have to do something. I feel like I have to do something rather than I really want to do something. So that's what I've been thinking about today. It's like, what does it mean to be motivated? And like, for a lot of things, like there's different levels of motivation you need to complete. Like, the thing about like the easy, like, eating junk food or something like that. That's pretty easy, pretty enjoyable. It's like a low effort, high reward type of thing. Now, it's not good for you, but it's a high reward nonetheless. You feel like you want it. And at the other side of that, there's the high effort, low reward. And high effort, low reward is like, I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's like, that's where, it takes a lot of effort, but you don't get any outcome, so why do it? Except, but it's like the high effort, high reward. Like, that's the things in life that I feel like, that can really like expand horizons, that can really help you build your future. And, if it takes a lot of effort, and not a lot of people are doing it, that means you should do it. You should do the stuff that's hard so you can get past other people. But the whole thing with it being hard is that there's always that hope that, if I get something done that's hard now, my future will be better. Or likewise, think about procrastination. It's like, if I don't start doing this assignment or doing this chore around the house, then I'm going to get into problems in the future. Relationships, school-wise, stuff like that. And it's like, now doing it, that energy is being fueled by the failure of not doing it, rather than the success of doing it. And for me, everyone deals with it, but like the fear of failing can be so much stronger. That's like, if you feel like you are going to fail, you'll actually start it, rather than if you feel like you want to do something, that there isn't that risk of failure, but the reward is higher, then it's still really good. But it's like, if you do nothing, it's like, okay, my existence is still good, it's still worthy. So, but there's also another sense of like, what should the desired outcome be? I think of like something like, aerobics, and running and all the other fitness stuff I do. It's like, what's really the reward of me doing better at those activities? And to be kind of honest to myself, it's getting feel better, so I can have a better athletically, a better future. I asked this to someone, one of my friends the other day. It's like why do you work out? And he was like, oh, for the gains, for feel good. It's like, why do you feel good? Like, why? And the one thing that's really true is the people that work out, when I work out, it's when I am able to do that tough exercise, then I'm able to complete whatever I was doing. When I feel like I had high motivation to accomplish something, I feel like I can take on the rest of the day. And that's where it's if you're able to do a tough thing, then you're able to do the next tough thing, and then the next thing. It's very compounding. And there's always an underlying effect that's if you can have motivation for a lifetime, there's really a specific way of doing it. It's having that the infinite mindset rather than the finite mindset, where you have to think about what you're doing in the grand scheme of things. It's not how it's helping you in a week's time, a month's time. It's how it's happening. It's whatever in your lifetime, your future, or how it's helping you in the present. Being present, wow, I am enjoying whatever I'm doing right now because of this, that. Rather than I think with the gym, it's oh, I want that personal best. I want to squat over 2 plates. And it's great, but I see it so much. I see it with runners, the run club, and myself. When that goal ceases, when the race is done and you've been trying for so long, then your motivation dips. It really dips a lot to where you stop doing, you might regress to old habits, you might do other things. And that's one of the things with motivation, which is great to have goals, but if you're only doing it at that intensity for the outcome, for the immediate outcome, or a near future outcome, then it's I guess you'll just be kind of disappointed. Give me a second. Good. It's much better. So, it's really hard though to think about. I'm just thinking. Oh my god. Yeah. And I'm just thinking about today, because normally I don't have my phone. I usually leave my phone at work or somewhere, so I don't have the temptation to scroll and get that instant dopamine rush. Because for motivation, for things that are hard, it takes courage and fear and all that stuff, and it's so much easier to just go on your phone to feel that hit of dopamine, of happiness, and not worry about the fear. But for a lot of things, if you don't feel the fear now, there's a lot of problems that don't go away in life. You actually have to tackle. Some problems just go away over time, and that's okay to distract yourself, but there's a lot of problems that, do take time to, or do require efforts and motivation to get it done. So it's really a constant, you have, the motivation can dip, can rise, but it's if you're doing it for the process rather than the outcome in general, I feel like it's really more enjoyable, and you're able to not worry about it so much. at the same time, it's like, how do you define that you're doing something well if you're just worrying with the process of actually doing it? It's something that's like with my parents and being raised, it was very outcome driven, and I struggle with knowing if I'm doing enough. I know like objectively I am doing enough, but I don't feel like I'm doing enough when it comes to whatever I'm doing. So it's really hard to know in my mind. It's like, when can I just take a break? When is it okay to not have the motivation to do the things I need to do on a day? And I feel like if I allow myself to fail in that way, I'm gonna feel better when I actually do the things I want to be motivated to do. But yeah, it's interesting. Because there's like the motivation to do something, but there's also a lot of like times, especially like just high performance individuals, where they can really get into the sense of like that cyclical cycle that they fail, they work harder, get more motivated, and they fail again, so they get more motivated, and it like consumes their life. And I'm thinking about my brother John in that, because for a lot of it, a lot of his free time goes to helping the varsity volleyball team here. And for him, it's a way to help people and feel fulfilled in that way. But the last few seasons that he's been coaching, they've all had losing records, and my brother's very much about, the goal of playing is to win, is to do, better than what you were before. And I hear about the days that they lose and he's up to 3, 4 a.m. and not being able to sleep. Maybe watching volleyball, see how he can improve, and then coming back harder next time, kind of doing the same things over and over again. And I think of, maybe it's not motivation itself, but it's like strategies. Like, there's a lot of things that in life are hard, but you think will bring you joy, but really doesn't. I don't talk to him enough to really know if, the dips of, and the rises of his feeling, his desire to coach, to be better. And I just think it's like, how do you know when something's hard, and you have the motivation for it, but when should you throw in the towel and just say, hey, I tried my best, this is okay, this result is okay. Because a lot of people are kind of primed to, when they do fail, they just work harder until they succeed. They're very much bulldozers. When it comes to oh great. Don't need to worry about that. Sorry. Oh, it's weird when you're doing this for the first time, but it's the sense that because you could keep doing the same thing, have the motivation to do the same thing over and over again, but when it dips, or when it's not fulfilling you anymore, instead of saying like, oh, I feel hopeful that it will fulfill me if I try harder, maybe it's like, maybe something else in the world is going to fulfill me more with less effort. Because if you're you have high effort but low output, or things aren't changing, it's like it's not really going there. I think of if you push harder against the Earth's not moving. Earth's wasting your energy. But if you're pushing instead of down, you're pushing horizontally. Yeah, maybe you move a car, maybe you move a bike a little faster. So it's hard to know what's for him what's best, but it's really interesting when you know that quitting is better than continuing to push through it. And I hope you can find the answer, but it isn't easy per se. It isn't easy when it's like a lot of your motivation stems from your identity. If you have to change your identity, that's a lot harder. That's a topic for another time. But what is that? Oh yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so one of the things, that I think about that I believe is the whole sense of like free will. It's kind of not true. I think about it in a case like, we react to everything. Like, if there's something going on, friends or something like that, yeah, you want to hang out with them. Or when nothing's going on, it's like, oh, meditating or laying down for a few minutes, this is so uncomfortable. Let me go in the fridge and get a snack. It's a lot of, like, you were just reacting to external and internal stimulus. And, there's not too much you can do. It's like, yep, I want to do that. Like, if you don't have the motivation during the day, it's like you can't tackle that biggest task first because you don't have the energy to break through and get that done. And that's the whole thing with like being reactionary. That you could complete one thing and you have motivation to the next thing because you feel accomplished, you feel successful, you feel good about yourself. If you feel good about yourself, and you'll be more motivated and feel absolutely crap about yourself to a certain extent. But it really depends when it comes to that. Like, your environment is so important when it comes to understanding, or when it comes to being motivated. I've done this for the past few months, and it's been leaving my phone at work, leaving my computer at work. If I can, I don't bring my computer or my phone home, because if I have that temptation there, then I'm just going to go on there, and I'm going to use it, and I'm not going to get the stuff that I need to done. A lot of things when you get done in the day are hard. They're very hard. So not having that temptation to like, oh, I have a way out is just, I feel like it's just so important. But it's like, it's just very hard in that sense, because a lot of the things like your phones, and it's like it's very necessary for technology nowadays to use and to be around. So when you're not around technology, when you're unable to access it, it can be quite lonely. And that's also something that I've endured, and that I know that I don't want to be. But in a sense, it's like, it's good in some respects, in others not. But it's like maximizing it. Like, you don't get to change the rules. You're unable to change the rules of who you are and how humans work. But you can manipulate those rules so you succeed more often. And I found it's like when I'm able to not have my phone and my computer here, I'm able to essentially be with my feelings, my thoughts and my feelings, and able to write stuff down and really listen to my needs rather than essentially covering them up. And it's so hard to beat that if you have it there. So for a lot of things, like I sometimes like have to self-impose loneliness as a choice rather than a choice that I make rather than a choice other people make, because it makes you feel so much more in control. The whole environment is like, if I did have my phone and my computer around, not a 5-minute bike ride or a 15-minute walk away, I'd just be on that for a lot longer, and then become less productive, which would, in my case, make me less motivated. And if I'm less motivated, I feel really bad with myself. So, in that sense, like, what is the best environment for someone? And it differs from person to person. Some people really feel in control of their environment when they clean. And for other people, it's exercise. Other ones like partying, being with friends, stuff like that. And like, if you're able to reduce the effort you need to get to a place or be in a situation that makes you feel fulfilled, then that just makes you lead a happier life. I think about like when I'm going to leave university, and just the abundance of people that are around your age and going through the same things you are, it's going to be so much harder to it's just absolutely hard to interesting. I'm sorry, I lost the train of thought. But being like out in the real world, like, age range of differences, experience is different. You know, you're more busy in a company and stuff like that. It's gonna be a lot harder to find the people and the environment that's gonna make me feel successful, essentially. And I think that's something, in 2 years I'm gonna have to deal with. It'll be interesting. If I was talking about this 2 years ago, I'd be like, what do I do? But now I feel like I can make it out and help and, be okay when it comes to, So, yeah, optimizing your environments, you have to spend less effort to do the things that you feel, that the hard things, essentially, so important. No point in brute forcing it. So, but that's kind of the main thing. Like your environment, like you should be able to be like find people and be around the people that allow you to do the things you want to do. And I always since I have a chemical engineering background, or chemistry background, I guess, more accurately, I think about activation energy of an exothermic reaction. Exothermic means, how if you complete something in a day, that's hard. You're going to have more motivation to do it next time. So instead of energy, it's motivation. It's like, to get over the hump and really release all that energy, you have to have the motivation. And when it's hard, you have to have more motivation, until you get to that point at the top where it's like at that peak motivation, you're just able to do what you want to do. And you're completing that hard thing, and then your motivation comes down, energy is being released, and you are able to have that more energy. And there's that spare energy from your reaction that you can apply to the next thing, get that next curve going. So one of the things with friends is they are essentially the catalyst to doing well in life. So if they lower the activation energy that you need, it's not as big. It's a lot. It's the height, the amount of energy you get is still the same, but the height at which you need to increase your motivation to get through it is a lot less. And that's something that I've finally, I'd say finally, but not something I was instilled. It was very much like with playing tennis and these individual sports and just in general outcome based. It's like, you got to do it by yourself. It's very much, if you tackle these things with friends, it's going to make you a little less productive. But now, doing it with friends just makes me feel so much more accomplished, and I have a sense that if I do fail, I have people around me to build me up, rather than if I'm by myself, I put myself down. So it's so important to have people around you that are like-minded and that will motivate you, that will really help, just really help you get to your goals and be okay when you don't get to your goals. That's the main thing. You're able to fail, they want you to succeed. It's great. But it's really interesting how motivation, the things you feel motivated to do and things you want to do throughout the day that are hard changes throughout the years. I think about when I was in high school. Really, the only thing, besides being forced to play sports and stuff like that and work out, the only thing I was really motivated to do is play video games. I played a lot of League of Legends and games on my original Xbox and stuff like this, and that I had to just really motivated to do well in that because I felt like I had control over those games. Control over playing. Just playing, doing the things that I wanted to do rather than feeling like I was forced to do those things. And think about coming to university, essentially knowing no one. I was so happy because I was like, oh, it's a fresh start. Everyone's going to meet everyone. It's like, no one really has friends. They really want to find their place, stuff like that. And when it came to coming in the first year, we were all lonely. I was very lonely. I really didn't have anyone that I could, talk to about my feelings and stuff like that. I didn't think I had the ability to talk about that. But at that time, I was thinking about, fitness to really gain some weight. I had an unlimited meal plan. I gained 15 pounds in 6 months. And for anyone who knows me, that's a lot of weight. I'm the skinny guy, but not anymore. I'm still skinny, but I'm a beast. That's my dad would say. That's not me saying that, that's my dad saying that. But it wasn't until COVID happened and me being in Waterloo in the summertime without any friends around. It's like, wow, I have no one around me at the point. I have no one I can text. I have no one I can, talk to. And I'm feeling terrible. I don't want to be in a situation. I don't want to exist. And it really got to the point of just week after week being in a job I hated, being in an environment that didn't allow me to do what I wanted to do. Too small, and roommates that I didn't like. That it was really hard, and it wasn't until I kind of reached out to a therapist, and it wasn't immediate, but just starting from that point, I was on the sense of oh, okay, now friends are so much more important to me. Being around people is so much more important than actually the outcome itself. And nowadays, when it comes to working out, sports, and all this stuff, I struggle to do it by myself because I don't have the motivation anymore to really complete something aerobically that's tough by myself. I'm more motivated to help other people do it. And for some of it, that's been hard, but it's that's my new passion. It's just really helping out people with their lows in their motivations and all that stuff, because it's not easy. It's not easy at all. And that's my motivation now is a lot more consistent when it comes to life, because I do have that direction. It's like, I wanna motivate people. I wanna make people feel like they can exist with themselves a little bit easier. And I just want to inject energy in people's lives, and I hope people can feel that and take that and inject it into other people's lives. I want it to be compounding, not declining. So I think for that, it changes over time. And I think having that motivation that is a lifelong motivation rather than that has a time frame or a deadline is so much more important. Deadlines are great to keep you on track, but they aren't the track themselves. So I think that's so important. But when it comes to motivation, if you don't know the reason why you're doing something, that motivation isn't going to last. And I've found out a lot of that. So I think for the most part, that's like for motivation. It can be hard sometimes to feel hope, because hope and motivation kind of go hand in hand. But in overall, if you are able to do it, not by yourself, but with other people, and you're able to do things by yourself, I think the main thing is if you're able to fail, the motivation goes up, because you're able to, if you fail, that's okay. Just get up and try it again, rather than if there's more consequences to failing, self-imposed consequences. And it's like, why should I even do this? Why should I even start? So it's really hard, but I think if we sum everything up, like if we can do things with friends that increase motivation, and if we reduce the amount of failing, self-imposed failing, and what's deemed as a failure, then it makes you feel like you're able to succeed more, hence more motivation. So it's like getting that motivation is very much, kind of like it's kind of like when you're driving. I say this all the time to my friends. You're driving, and if you are trying to avoid that pedestrian, the thing that you don't want to do, the thing that is hard or that's tough or whatever, in this case failing. If you want to avoid failure, and you're worried about it, and you have your hands on the steering wheel, if you're looking at it, you're going to drive right into failure. You're going to be so worried about missing it that you'll actually run straight into it. Whereas you're supposed to, in the car, look where you want to go when you drive, and that's success. If you're focused on the success and being okay with failure, the motivation straight up skyrockets. So that's kind of my take on it.